A group of ambitious young scientists unlock the key to a brand new world, but upon getting into too close a contact with some interdimensional goo, they find themselves coming back from the other world changed, with some fantastic powers that the world may not be ready to see. In Fantastic Four, this is today's review. It's probably on Netflix. I watched it on Netflix a couple of days ago, so probably still on there. Now, I had been avoiding this movie for some time. As you may recall, the movie definitely got some bad press, bad reviews, news about reshoots and weird things happening on set, and just generally everyone seemed to hate the movie. So I kind of avoided it. I didn't review it, but I did like a non-review of the movie where, based on the trailers and this bad press, I can say, well, this is pretty much what you can expect. The movie. This is not a review, but this is why I'm not seeing it, basically. But all that has died down, and I kind of thought, what's the worst that could happen if I give it a shot, right? So it's on Netflix. Why not check it out? Because there is this part of the movie-going culture, those who take it maybe a little bit more seriously, maybe geek culture, if you want to call it that. Those who take comic book based properties very seriously. Those who take just generally franchise geeky kind of stuff seriously, not just to say with Ghostbusters, which is another issue, another kind of controversial release that's coming up, where part of us who maybe want to make that leap to go see it, there is that desire for justification for hatred. Like, you'll always get people saying, oh, well, you haven't seen it yet, so why not see it first? And then they just see it to get it over with and say, yeah, I hate it, I can justifiably say so. But there is another part of this mindset of genuinely, sincerely wanting to be proven wrong. I absolutely believe that. And I think those who went to see Fantastic Four had that kind of mindset. And those going in to see Ghostbusters or whatever else is of controversy next year, that's kind of what they're going into. Because there's nothing better than being proven wrong, like wanting to really hate a movie than coming out of it saying, you know what, yeah, it was alright, it was alright. So the first part of me, I didn't want to play that game. I didn't want the vindication. I didn't want the justification, whatever you want to call it. I knew I would be bound for a bad movie. I didn't want to see it. So this is not a review. I'm not going to talk about it. So I put that up. Year has passed now. It's on Netflix. So I gave it a watch because there's that other part. There's that I want to be proven wrong. Is it as bad as everyone has been saying? Is it as horrible as all the reviews make it out to be? Well, having now seen it, yeah, it is. So this isn't going to be a defense of the movie or anything like that. I do think it's bad. In fact, I would say probably, at least of the last 10 years, at least of kind of decently or reasonably or big budget superhero movies, this is the very worst. Absolutely, without a question. Yes, worse than Green Lantern. Worse than whatever else. I don't know. I can't list all those whatever. But I mean, there is always this kind of thing where, I don't know, people like to pick on bad movies. It's like picking on the lesser kid or something like that. Everyone kind of wants this, almost like their own personal mystery science fiction theater in their head, where they can pick apart every single thing that's wrong with the movie and talk about this and make fun of that, and that's stupid and that's unintentionally hilarious and all that stuff, where it's like, okay, what's really wrong here, you know? And it's like, honestly, you watching this right now, how many reviews of this movie have you seen people kind of sarcastically or even like bitterly refer to the movie as Fan Fort Stick? What a stupid title. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like kicking the movie like that. So, I mean, there's all that. But like, having said all that, it's a horrible movie. It's bad. It's just bad. As bad as everyone has said. And I guess you could point to a lot of reasons for it. So, I mean, this review isn't going to be like nitpick every single thing. I mean, there's plenty wrong with it. That's for sure. But to kind of get to the heart of it, at least I hope, and what I think is mainly wrong with it, is that it is trying to take this source material seriously, which it can't be done so callously. It can't be done without just such a careful mindset about it, because obviously, we're in a climate where it's like dark and gritty superhero movies, whatever, but not really. I mean, really, the only super serious, super dark and gritty were, I'd say, the Nolan Batman movies, and those were really exceptional movies, and I think they didn't cheat in getting that way, because there's something so wrong with treating something fucking goofy as fuck as a bunch of scientists going into an alternate dimension and getting superpowers, and treating it like it's like the most fucking serious thing in the world. So that's one of the big problems with the movie, and in not earning that attitude. You know what I mean? Because you have to care about the characters and their plight, which you do with, say, Bruce Wayne, because we get to know the character. Like, there's a huge difference between building a character arc to get to the action and just taking a long time and being serious about it to get to the character action. So we learn all this stuff about Bruce Wayne and his parents' deaths, and just in general, like Gotham City, that's kind of what he's fighting for, and things like that, becoming Batman. And it's like a goofy as hell concept, but it's treated in a way that we can buy it, you know? And even when it comes to the main action of the movie, we have a hero who wants to defend the city in this particular type of way, and we have a villain who feels very different about that, and the whole silly plot about pumping nerve gas into the water and evaporating it is just the silliest bullshit ever. But I mean, you buy it. You buy it because there is an idealism towards the opposing sides that you're invested in, that you buy. As silly as it is, you buy it. And with Fantastic Four, I didn't care about any character or what their goal was, what their plight was, what they wanted to do, what they wanted to achieve, what the villain wanted to do, what the villain wanted to achieve, because the motivations in this movie are very muddled. The characterization is treated very seriously, but not in a particularly interesting way. Like, we see kind of the childhood scenes of this kid, of Mr. Fantastic, before Reed Richards, and he's in school, played, by the way, by like one of the most yawn-inducing child actors like I've ever seen. Like, you can tell this kid's like reading off cue cards, like, and then the flux capacitor goes to the flubbly bop. Well, interdimensional travel is possible. Like, shut the fuck up. And like a comically bad teacher who's like just like pushing him down, like, oh, you're so silly, kid. I mean, the character may as well be a cartoon. In fact, that must be why they cast Dan Castellaneta, who of course is best known for voicing the genie in the Return of Jafar animated movie and the Aladdin series, of course. And it spends a lot of time there, and it makes little hints here and there at possible abuse within the family, or maybe more negligence. Like, we see the father and mother bickering, and he's watching the TV. He's probably been ignored in his life, but they don't really delve too deep in that, as if they want to plant the seed but not watch it grow, and so we're left with nothing to really consider. And the same with Ben Grimm, his friend, the childhood friends who kind of meet each other. There's not so much implied abuse. There is very much literal abuse that we see going on. Like, of course, one of the main kind of knocks at the movie is like they changed his clobbering time to a slogan before being abused, right? So his brother abuses him and beats him up, and his mother kind of gets involved, and you can tell he's grown in an abusive household. Again, they don't really explore that too often, too deeply. Like, they just kind of show it, and that's that. And it would be kind of interesting, like, if it's along this path, you know, like to kind of understand their plight and why maybe they're just these outsiders in this world. They don't really like this world that much, which is why they're so focused on, you know, finding another world, basically another dimension. So I mean, that would be interesting if they kind of played that a little bit more, but they're almost afraid to, for some fucking reason. They're afraid to do anything in this movie. And when we get to the whole section where the whole team is brought together, we have Miles Teller as Reed Richards. We have Ben Grimm, who joins like at the last minute. Dr. Doom, Dr. Von Doom, Victor Von Doom, and Kate Mara and Michael B. Jordan as the Storm siblings. and their father. The father's, I'll give you this. Sorry, I forget the actor's name, but he's great. He delivers these great monologues in the movie where you almost want to like the movie just because he's given it his all, while everyone else is kind of sleepwalking through it. And we reach this point where, like, okay, they're building this big thing, and there's stuff going on. There's possibly a relationship going on between Sue and Reed, and they're kind of flirting a little bit. Maybe, I can't even tell. Maybe she doesn't even like him. But then Von Doom kind of likes her, and we, like, of course, have to see the one shot of them kind of bonding, and then the other shot of him kind of glooming over and looking like, oh, I don't like this. And, like, they don't even really develop from that at all, so why even put it in, and all this stuff. And you just have to think, what do I care about any character doing anything in this movie? What do I care if these characters achieve interdimensional travel? How am I invested in this? And there's nothing. I mean, like, the tiniest threads that you can kind of hold on is that they kind of get drunk one night and decide to go into the machine, which very Cronenberg inspired, like The Fly, I think, where they're like, okay, so first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, right? So do you remember the guy who built the rocket ship to get to the moon? No, you didn't. So we have to go ourselves. So it's almost like this vanity thing, right? There's nothing to grasp here. So I mean, that's just ridiculous. And treating this stupid concept so seriously just makes it all the more laughable. Like, I give the Nolan Batman movies as an example, but that you can at least kind of buy, because we're not talking about characters who gain superpowers here. We're talking about a character who dresses up as a bat and can kind of believe it. But even if you look at something like Spider-Man 2, like we cared about this character, about this kid with amazing powers who can turn to not turn to a spider, but like sling webs like a spider and swing around in his silly suit and all that stuff. But we care about how this kid, he's like just struggling to make ends meet, pay his rent, pay his tuition, go to school, balance all these responsibilities, get the girl, and all that kind of stuff. And we care about that plight, even though it's a silly thing. Superhero movies are so silly, but we really have to invest in the characters, which we do in Spider-Man 2 and Nolan Batman movies, and of course a great many of the Marvel movies, right? So it's so important to let us invest in these characters, but we have no chance here. The characters here are so monotone, so gloomy. Like, even Miles Teller, who he gave just such an electric performance in Whiplash. Here he's got nothing. Michael B. Jordan, who's usually really great. Creed, man, he's so great. He's doing nothing here, and like they throw in like little pieces of humor here and there, not anything especially funny, but like just little kind of tension breakers that don't really accomplish much. Trying to keep the humor real world and natural, if you want to call it that, but it just fails miserably at that, and we just don't care, and we have no investment in these characters, and they're so monotone, so boring. And like Kate Mara, come on, what is with Kate Mara? We have to stop the Mara sisters. What acting school did they go to? Okay, girls, Kate Mara, Rooney Mara, here, take these pebbles, put them in your mouth, and try to talk. Interdimensional travel. Okay, great. Good job, Kate Mara. So, everyone's dead in this movie. So unlively. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. So that's very uninteresting. And then, of course, we kind of get the whole kind of severed halves of the movies where we can kind of sense the studio interference in it. And I don't know. It's probably right after 1 year later thing, but you kind of look at that whole exploration thing where Von Doom and Richards and Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, they all go onto the planet, and they're like, wow, it's amazing. Meanwhile, it's this ugly looking place. Like, who would be amazed by this other than the fact that it's something other than Earth? And of course they see the green goo and they gravitate towards it and they have to get it. And even that, like, you gotta like at least give something like, say, Prometheus credit, where everyone like shit talked that movie about, oh, they take off their helmets, oh, this stoned guy, he tried to pet a worm creature. Well, I mean, maybe the stone guy, not unlike Josh Trank himself. Maybe he's just too whacked out on the pot, and he just couldn't help himself but get himself into trouble. You know what I mean? And I don't know. The Hellman thing never really bothered me, and at least with something like Prometheus, which I'll always defend Prometheus till my dying day. I don't care if it is annoying, but I think with the characters there, I think there is kind of a reason why they want to explore like that planet and find the makers of life and these architects and things like that. You do feel like they're legitimately excited about the work, and there is a very interesting psychological reason behind that. The two characters, of course, who are husband and wife, there's kind of that lingering fact that these are characters looking for the secret to how life began, but they also cannot conceive life themselves. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting psychological thing. Here, with Fantastic Four, they want to achieve interdimensional travel. For some reason. Because they can. Because they're really smart. And because, hey, Glory would be really good too. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. And so they gravitate towards this green goo, and everything goes wrong. And that's maybe the only entertaining scene in the movie, where they're all trying to get away. And of course, Von Doom, he gets left behind, and he possibly dies. But of course, he turns into Doctor Doom. And then we, cut to the horror of these amazing things happening, and treating it so seriously, like scientists looking at them like, oh my god, he's all rock. Oh my god, he's on fire. Oh my god, he's stretchy. Like, what? Seriously? And they play like the booming kind of Dark Knight music that has become so old at this point in kind of mimic movies that try to take that same style. And again, they try to place some interesting traits here and there. Like, Grimm is horrified at his appearance, and he terribly resents Reed Richards for getting him involved, and there's a kind of a bitter feud there, but he all kind of forgets it later in the movie, and the whole movie is like this. The main conflict at the end, Doctor Doom trying to destroy the world because he doesn't like it, because he likes his world and prefers it or something. I don't know. It's just so lame. It doesn't make any sense. It's horrible. It's a horrible movie. It really is. I couldn't believe I was watching a movie that studios just kind of thought, you know what, we did what we could. Let's release it. They would have been better off to shelf it. Honestly, they really would have, because with some movies where there's studio interference, like speaking of Prometheus, there's of course the infamous Alien 3 that had like some of the worst studio interference. Same studio, by the way, Fox. You do kind of see that movie, and especially when you view kind of the director, well, not director's cut, the assembly cut as they call it. You kind of see the vision in there. You see this director who was struggling with his first big feature, and you kind of saw what he was trying to go for. And you look at this movie, you see the interference. You definitely see the interference, but you don't see the original vision. Remember, there's that infamous tweet that Trank probably, high off his mind, went on the computer, went on the Twitter. I had a vision of Fantastic Four, but we'll never get to see it. That's life. Something like that. You think, what was your vision? What the fuck was your vision, pal? So there's that. And just such bad mojo behind the whole thing. Like, you hear these stories of him, the director Trank, kind of like verbally abusing Kate Mara, and renting out a house, and bringing his dogs, and going into tents, and not coming out, and smoking pot, and like, what the fuck? The story of the making of this movie has got to be more interesting than the movie itself. So I'd love to see a movie about the making of Fantastic Four. I really would. But so now they've shot out another movie, and they have another 7 years to retain the rights, and maybe they'll try again. And nobody's happy. Just give the rights back to Marvel, as they say. So I thought the movie was horrible. I would rate it nothing. I would rate it 0 stars out of 4. This is an absolute mess. This barely qualifies as a real movie, and it's just horrid. It's one of the worst film viewing experiences of recent memory. So I hated it. I hated Fantastic Four. I really, really did. It was awful. There was nothing to grasp at. We're in a world now where superhero movies are being taken seriously, not just by the filmmakers, but by the audiences, and that's the very important part. And here they fucked up real bad. I don't know what to tell you. So I'm probably bringing nothing new to the table, especially a year later. But I just thought I'd talk about the movie a little bit and talk about my thoughts on it. Now finally having seen it all this time later, and the only thing I can think of is there's got to be someone who's skimmed like $150 million off the top. How could this movie cost $150 to make? It's a disaster. The special effects are bad, even when you see like the stretchiness of Mr. Stretchy or whatever the fuck his name is, Mr. Fantastic. How did this get released? What a horrible movie. What a shame. It's probably on Netflix. Check it out. So that's my review. Thank you very much for watching. As always, be sure to comment, rate, subscribe. Drop me a PM. Let me know how I'm doing on this channel. Let me know what you'd like to see. And as always, I thank you. Thank you for all your support in watching this channel. But I'll wrap it up now. And until next time, I'll see you later.